Morning light slid across the plastic chairs of Riverton Community Clinic, but the waiting room felt airless. Mina Ortega stood at the counter with her daughter in her arms, trying to keep her voice from breaking. Luna's breaths were thin and fast, a tiny tremor riding each inhale. A stuffed rabbit dangled from her fist. On the glass beside the slot for forms, a laminated notice declared the rule everyone already knew: no treatment without a deposit. Please, Mina said, not sure who she was addressing. Clerk, nurse, anyone within earshot. She needs help now. People looked and then looked away. The clerk slid a stack of papers under the glass and asked for an amount. Mina didn't have. She tried her card, declined. She tried to explain about the extra shifts and the landlord and how the fever had come and gone until it didn't go. The clerk's mouth softened, but the words stayed hard. Policy, procedure, confirmation. The door opened and a man stepped in, pausing as if he'd walked into a different climate. He wore the kind of suit that made him blend in corporate boardrooms and stand out anywhere else. A leather folio tucked under one arm. His name was Darius Vale, though no one spoke it yet. He watched the rise and fall of the small back pressed to Mina's shoulder, watched the way Mina counted quietly to steady the tiny lungs. Start, he said to the nurse who had rolled over a pulse monitor. Begin whatever you'd begin if this were your child. Put the charges on my account. The nurse, Haru Lin, hesitated, not because she didn't want to move, but because she had been written up once for moving too fast. I need the supervisor, she said, already unclipping the oximeter. I'll page him. A man in a pressed shirt and careful smile arrived with a folder under his arm. He introduced himself as Mr. Cobb and asked for a name, an ID, a funding source. Darius placed his identification on the counter and dialed a number from memory. Emergency Fund 7 Alpha, he said into the phone. Immediate authorization. Send the confirmation email while I'm standing here. Mina followed as Haru guided Luna toward triage. In 2, 3. Hold, Mina whispered, and Luna tried to match the rhythm. The monitor's line fluttered like a moth. While they worked, Darius drifted toward a corkboard where old memos yellowed around the edges. A particular page stopped him. Guidelines for grant-supported clinics, dated years back. In the corner, his own stylized signature sat like a seal. Payment verified before care, it read. A sentence that had sounded prudent in a conference room. Keep the lights on. Prevent fraud. Stretch each dollar. In this hallway, it felt like a hand on a child's throat. He closed his eyes and for a moment, he was a boy again on a plastic chair. His mother at a counter asking for time, for grace, for anything that would stop the shaking in his chest. They had left that day with a bill and advice to try somewhere cheaper. He had spent years building a life where no one could tell him no. In the process, he had written that word into other people's days. Her oxygen's on, Haru said when she returned. She's stabilizing. Mina found Darius still staring at the memo. I don't know you, she said, voice raw. But thank you. Don't thank me yet, he answered, surprised by how hoarse he sounded. He walked the back corridor where parents slept crooked, on chairs and a janitor steered, a mop around their shoes, a vending machine blinked exact change only. He thought of every line item he had fought for in meetings, every policy shaped to satisfy auditors and spreadsheets. You can save a program and still lose its point, he realized. He could hear the printer spitting another form at the front desk. When he returned, Mr. Cobb was tapping a pen against the folder. Mr. Vale, Cobb began, measuring each word. Of course we're grateful for your support, but auditors... Gather your team, Darius said. 5 minutes. Cobb blinked, then nodded and made calls. Nurses slipped from rooms. The clerk left the window and stood with her arms folded tight against her ribs. Haru hovered near the sign on the glass. Mina sat with Luna curled in her lap, listening without meaning to. Darius stood where everyone could see both him and the notice on the window. I wrote a rule years ago that made sense on paper, he said. Out here, it keeps the wrong people waiting. Effective now. If a case is urgent, you start care first. Payment conversations happen after stabilization. You have a hardship pool. Use it before you say no. If it runs dry, I'll refill it and publish the numbers we need to keep this place open. Cobb lifted his chin. Sir, with respect, that guideline was mine, Darius said, holding up the memo. It changes today. He handed the page to Haru. She slid the laminated notice out of its frame with her thumb and fed it to the shredder by the copier. The sound was small and decisive. Someone exhaled. The room felt as if a window had been cracked a few inches. They didn't celebrate. They fell back into motion. Only now the motion had a different center. A volunteer placed a simple flyer on the counter, explaining how the hardship fund worked. A whiteboard appeared beside. triage with 3 bullet points under treat. First, intake forms were shuffled so the medical questions sat on top of billing. None of it made the bills vanish. All of it made the hallway kinder. Luna slept with her cheek pink again. Mina sat beside her, smoothing the rabbit's worn ear. When Darius stepped into the doorway, Mina stood, still uncertain how to hold gratitude this large. "If you hadn't come," she began. "Someone should have come sooner," he said, "including me." He found Cobb in the office, behind the counter, and slid a 1-page agreement across the desk. "Training on bias-aware triage," he said. "2 sessions this week. Bring whoever writes procedures. We'll build the policy to match the oath." Cobb read, then looked up. The resistance in his shoulders eased a fraction. "We'll do it," he said. By afternoon, a new placard hung where the old one had been. No numbers, no threats, just an icon of a steady line above a heart and a sentence everyone could repeat. "Without shame. If it's urgent, we start." A week later, a grandfather arrived with a grandson whose breath whistled. The clerk pressed the button for triage first and slid a clipboard across with the insurance section clipped. Behind the medical questions, she caught the grandfather's startled look and smiled. "We've changed a few things," she said. Mina brought Luna back for a follow-up and paused. At the corkboard to trace the edge of the new sign, Darius happened to be there, reviewing a list of equipment needs with Haru. He saw Mina, and for once, didn't feel like an outsider in his own buildings. "You kept your promise," Mina said. "We all did," he replied. And he meant the nurse and the clerk. And even Cobb with his pen finally still. Outside, the day carried on as if nothing had shifted. Inside, the counter had learned a new word. People still filled forms and budgets still pressed. But when help was needed, it began. That was the difference between a wall and a door. Not the material, but the will to open.